2 years on from when the Inklings first burst onto the scene, battling to daub the world of Splatoon in various vibrant coloured inks, Nintendo's sequel proves to be just as refreshing and engaging as before. This is a sequel in the truest sense of the word, as a direct follow-up that builds upon everything in the original that it did right. There's a more satisfying single player, there's more multiplayer maps and weapons, there's even a new co-op mode. But unfortunately, this is also an example of Nintendo at their most stubborn, and that hurts Splatoon 2 just this little bit. The carefree yet attitude-filled Inklings and their vibrant world of colours might still feel better suited to 90s Sega than modern-day Nintendo, but it's only the latter Japanese company that could really have refined the core gameplay as far as they have done. Simply being able to switch from an Inkling's humanoid form to the squid form and then swimming through the ink is a joy, and then tying this together with splattering the world with your own colour so that you've got more places to swim through and you can get around the world faster, it's a moment of game design perfection in my opinion. This game looks fantastic on Nintendo Switch, whether playing on TV or on console itself, and it marks a noticeable step up in graphical quality compared to the Wii U original. It plays great as well, whether you're using the Pro Controller with the console in hand or just detaching the Joy-Con separately and using those one in each hand. Of course, there is the proviso that you need to adapt to the motion controls. You can turn motion off independently for TV and handheld play if that is what you want, but motion is the better and more sensitive control option by far. It's the ingenious and expertly crafted combination of shapeshifting and ink painting that gives Splatoon its most defining game mode, and this returns in Splatoon 2. Turf War pits 2 teams of 4 head to head, not to rack up the most kills, though obviously putting someone out of action for a few moments does help, but to try and claim as much territory as possible with your team's coloured paint, usually at the enemy's expense. Rounds of Turf War are short and sweet, at just 3 minutes long, giving each battle just enough time to flourish and a chance for a team to make a dramatic comeback if they're on the back foot, but without ever outstaying its welcome. Both the new maps and the handful that are returning from the original game have got this fairly plain looking industrial and recreational area design, for example skate parks or underneath the railway bridge, and they're just waiting to be splattered and coloured in. You've got a lot of weapons to choose from with which to do so, from the trusty splatter shots, automatic fire, to sniper rifles, paint rollers, paint buckets, Gatling guns, and new additions like the Akimbo Splat Dualies and the Splat Brella that will be making the leap from single player to multiplayer soon after release. You'll gradually unlock these different types of weapons and then variants of each that might change rate of fire, distance, and so on. Considering that most of these existed in the original Splatoon, whether at launch or in DLC updates, there's more refinement here as opposed to completely reinventing the wheel. The Splat Charger, for example, can hold its charge for a few seconds as you swim through ink, letting you pop up in a new sniping spot very easily, while the Splat Roller will throw a vertical line of ink when you jump, and the Splat Dualies let you pull a dodge roll that focuses the 2 streams of ink droplets into one for just a few moments. Not only that, but weapons come as a set, along with a sub-weapon and a special weapon. Special weapons are your reward for covering the arena in paint, and they don't just boil down to being unlimited sub-weapons for a short period of time. Yes, you do still have some of that, such as unlimited grenades, but you've also now got the Ink Storm that creates a cloudy, inky rain over an area, and the Tenta missiles to send a barrage of rockets towards enemies' current locations, and stuff like that. The goalposts shift for rank battles that are available once you've hit level 10 in the main multiplayer arena of Turf War, with 3 returning objective-based modes. These are Splat Zones, Tower Control and Rainmaker, each of which have been tweaked. You're not just focusing on controlling the map with paint though, but pushing to consider one particular area or item at a time. Not only that, but it helps to work as a team, which is only amplified in the new League Battles tier. League Battles are accessible once you've reached a rank B or better in any of the 3 ranked modes, which are now considered separately, and League Battles are intended to be played by teams of 4 that you've already set up, or matchmaking with duos. One thing that's not available prior to launch is Nintendo Switch Online app, Splatnet 2 that lives within this, and how it will aid in teaming up with friends. An online lounge option does exist in the online menu for the app integration, but there's also a basic friends section that simply shows names and whether you can join them or not. Inviting and setting up parties is locked behind Nintendo's forthcoming app, when I feel that it should actually just be within the game itself, you know. While multiplayer is the main show in town, it's got a great support act in the single-player campaign. Amusingly, it features an almost identical story to the original, where the great Zapfish has disappeared and you're inducted into a secret team to fight the Octarians to get it back, and with the exact same overall structure to the campaign. You've got 5 hub world areas to explore and find different levels, and upon completing all of these levels, you then have a boss fight that opens up the next space. It's hardly revolutionary, but it does do a much better job of introducing the game's various weapon types than the first game. Sheldon from the gun shop pops up to hand you various different guns at the start of certain missions, though you can then go back and replay all of these levels with weapons of your choice. There's much more expansive level design throughout this, albeit with a similar feel and abstract style of the original, and this feeds into the next hub area that you reach, and how you then go about exploring it. The boss fights are also much more interesting, and they evolve their attack patterns more convincingly. The one truly new addition here is the Cooperative Salmon Run, which is Nintendo's crack at a good old horde mode. Just as with the other pillars of the game, it's played in short and sweet bursts, and you're facing just 3 waves of enemies per match, trying to scoop up the golden eggs dropped by the varied and quirky salmonid bosses. You will quickly learn their weak spots because you have to deal with them as quickly as possible. Each wave has a minimum quota of golden eggs to collect and deliver back to the drop point, but a crack team of players can grab well over 3 times that at lower difficulties, and this in turn boosts the amount of points that you can put to rewards later on, and it helps you level up. Salmon Run can also be absolutely brutal at times, especially when you're not at your full complement of 4 players, as the game seems to delight in throwing an overwhelming mass of bosses at you during the 3rd wave in particular, or uses a variable sea level, nighttime and fog to feature different enemies and present you with different challenges. One thing that will hamper you is that you don't get to pick your weapons, but are instead given a different weapon each wave. On the one hand, it's a nice way of keeping you on your toes, but it's also a noose around your neck if you don't get on with a particular weapon type, or you're stuck with a Splat Charger and you've got to deal with tons and tons of enemies at once. Bizarrely, Salmon Run won't be available to play at all times, and this is a baffling decision, but you are at least able to see the upcoming schedule in the game's stages menu, and there will be 5 windows of opportunity in the game's first week, each of which lasts between 12 and 24 hours, so there's going to be plenty of opportunity to play it. It's just bizarrely locked away for half the time. It's just another sign that Nintendo maybe don't quite get online multiplayer yet, or that they disagree with everyone else over how it should be structured, and so there's many of the oddities from the original game that remain in Splatoon 2. To change your loadout, for example, you can't do this within a match, or even whilst being match made, but you have to back out at least as far as the main multiplayer menu. But again, there's another little weird hurdle, because there's no back button once you've started matchmaking. Similarly, there's no map playlists, but rather each of the multiplayer areas, you've got regular, ranked and league, has 2 maps that are assigned to be playable for a 2-hour slot, meaning that you could easily end up playing the same map time and time again over the course of 2 hours. Not only that, but there's still the map introduction cutscenes now with Pearl and Marina as the off-the-hook hosts, that will have you mashing the A button to skip past them. Thankfully, if you put your console into sleep mode, you can skip this a lot of the time. Splatoon 2 adds up to being a fairly straightforward sequel to one of the Wii U's best games, and it's still got that unique take on the online multiplayer shooter that is as fresh as ever on Nintendo Switch. Nintendo do still have one foot in the past though, with online functionality, stubbornly sticking to their guns when they should be learning from others, but these are easily covered up once you get into the game and you're enjoying what it actually has to offer. At its heart, Splatoon 2 is a second helping of one of the most inventive shooters of the last decade, and despite a handful of flaws, it definitely comes recommended for Nintendo Switch owners. Thanks as ever for checking this video out. Please do like, sub and share if you have enjoyed it, and we'll have a few more things to do with Splatoon 2 over the coming days and weeks. If you're digging into the Nintendo Switch, then we've also got videos of, for example, Super Mario Odyssey that we'd love for you to check out, and you can always come and visit us over on thesixthaxis.com for our written content. hopefully we will see you sometime soon. Goodbye!